All right. Welcome to Larp Tech 2.0. I'm Quinn, Rubber Studios. Super excited to do this panel because there's a lot of benefit, a lot of technical improvements in Larp. As game developers, as John discussed, really super excited to see what our panels have to offer today. I'll let them each introduce themselves. So, without further ado.
Hi, I'm Dick Kapell, our PM. I do both, I guess I do Larp Tech both front end and back end, which is to say I do interactive props and set pieces for games, and also a lot of technology around front connections, back and furniture requests and that stuff as well.
Hi, I'm Quinn Milton. I use they pronouns. I am one of the current owners of Event Horizon, which is Sci-Fi Larp, that has some integrated technology into play. I'm not a tech person, I'm not a programmer, I'm an artist and a designer, and I've worked a little bit with some like digital stuff, but not too much. So I'm coming at it from like organizer and game designer perspective.
Fun, let's pick.
I'm Ivey. We're building a electronic system for tracking all the effects in a light. I'll demonstrate the magic part of it. We have swords in prototype right now. Within a year, I expect to be able to build a full range of all the effects in our game and run by a simple computer. So you don't have to do all the calculations of how many points you got and all of that.
So the way that this format works is each presenter gets about like 20 minutes to present, and then we open it up for questions and answers. We'll drop props, I think you can get props.
That's props.
So everybody knows I'm a little deaf, you know. So if I don't understand what you say, repeat it loudly and forcefully, and I'll try harder, or I'll get my translator. I mean, she talked real loud, so that's why I brought it.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, let's go.
So let's start the video.
You want to let's do the video?
Yes, why don't I start the video?
Since you have video.
Let's
Okay, this
do
is the
video.
video we did actually a year or so ago. All of the effects in this thing are staged. We weren't actually doing no sound.
Yeah. Well, it's less dramatic without the sound, though. Basically, this just gives you an idea of how the system will work.
Or it doesn't work for the magic.
Yeah, the magic works this way now.
We're a mobile device with an app running on your wrist, or you can actually carry it anywhere you want. This wrist is a suggested location. It's really dramatic music.
These are the sensors.
Sensors.
These are our prototype sensors. They're going to be way cooler than stuff.
Yeah, you won't be able to see them. Really cool. Okay, what I have here to show you today is, and I wish I had a nice graphic here. This is running an app that shows your health, how much magic power you have in mana. There are 6 different spells that you can choose from. There are button 1, 2, 3 that correspond with the buttons on the watch. You can drag any of those 6 spells down to that button. You can set a power scale on the bottom. Each spell does a different thing. A shield stops you from being affected by any incoming spell. A destroy causes you damage. There's one called a curse that causes you to get your health and mana restored at half the rate normally. You do get your health back, your mana back, at one point every 20 seconds. Anyhow, there's a slow spell that's regulated by the accelerometer on the phone. Freeze spell, which is a much tighter restriction on your movement. And okay, I'm going to tell you right now, these are the prototypes. We have a new set of hardware that I have actually with me that did not get ready for this convention like I hoped it would. So if this fails and proves that it doesn't work, that's not bulletproof at all. Trust me.
We've been bringing this stuff to cons for ages now. It usually works just fine, but it's been
sometimes it just works out.
And it was our.
Okay, hold it up. So
no, then you're going to shoot me.
Yes, that's the point. Okay, hold it up. There you go.
Hang on, let me turn around. Okay, there you go.
Oh, quit doing it. I'm not going to shoot you with a laser in the eyes.
All right, that's a good point.
Destroy two.
Okay, her health has gone down by 4 points every time I hit her.
Destroy two.
Oh, and, oh my God, quit.
Just die.
If anybody would like to try this, to shoot her.
Hey, no. You guys can shoot each other.
Yeah. Who wants to shoot? Come on. Come on.
No?
Okay.
All right.
You got to play this so that the other guy can hit.
So the cool thing about this is that you can program the app for whatever you want for spells for your game. Yes, it's going to be a project called Command and Control that you can do a bunch of different things from, so really track your players, things like that.
So if you're at 0,
Yes.
you start doing damage.
I do. I probably lie on the ground and believe it.
Give that to him.
Give it to him.
Yes.
Absolutely. There you go,
When
sir.
you won't volunteer, I will volunteer.
So you give me the sensor.
Yep. I'm sensitive for
Okay,
one.
the red light comes on when you
See,
punch.
put that down, you have 3 hands on one.
Okay. This program.
Yep. And then you can hold up the little sensors with one hand. You want to go
Okay.
Oh, he's gonna stick it
The
to
next
his body.
iteration, yeah. The next iteration doesn't use Velcro. They button on it.
Hit me.
Destroy two.
He's taking damage.
So,
Yeah.
so I have 3 different buttons.
Yes.
These are different spells.
Yeah,
The
so,
shield stops any damage from coming in, any spell from coming in for some period of time.
so up here you have the list of spells that you can use, right? And then you drag them down to your button.
You assign them.
Right, you assign them. So, the destroy spell is on your first button.
So if I've got 2 depressed units, I'm shielded from them.
you has to be shielding, so if you press it down and you let it go, that's a stream.
Shield and heel are
Now
on.
go ahead and hit it with something.
Destroy. Screen from destroy.
Very nice. So now,
No effect.
You
Now,
can
if I
put
get time
timer
to listen.
around the
Yeah.
effect.
I've got that's the C.
Third
Third
button, I think.
What's the fire?
That's, I think about, this is button.
Oh, three. Oh, that's three. Okay, and then one is heal. Let me do one.
See, this is real easy.
It doesn't force you to let go of the button.
Okay, that's fine.
It's
So, but I know
really
there's no
easy to target
targeting.
once you get it.
It's just-
You
So if I
don't
want
need to target, no.
now can I target him? Or is it just
Can he target someone else with a heal spell?
At the moment, no.
right now it's self-heal stuff?
Yeah, we're gonna fix that on, my programming did not understand LARPing at all.
Shocker, right? There's so many of us who know.
Destroy 2.
Are you still firing?
That's kind of,
Destroy 2.
oh, okay.
So is it you laser to the spot and then you release
Okay,
the
let's do
trigger
that.
or?
As soon as you let go of the
Yeah,
trigger
now
spell.
it's destroyed fire.
I need to start.
Destroy 5. Destroy 2.
Destroy five.
Destroy five.
Destroy 2.
Yeah, you gotta have five.
It'll stop taking
You gotta have
damage.
five mana. Oh, you're dead.
Dead.
Destroy 2.
Yeah.
Womp, 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 womp.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Sure. No, this is, we made.
Does anybody want to see them?
Electrical engineers and
So you say the next
Okay, this-
configuration, the
these
the,
ones,
receptors
we
will
had-
be visible?
we're working
Right, they're
with
gonna be
Epic
behind the-
Armory to make,
Hang on.
the wands and the weapons. They made these for us.
Well, if you cut the button, with the snap, the one you button into things,
I don't have it,
isn't
no.
it in the backpack? Did you not put it
I,
back?
it might possibly, it's just the size of a button.
Yeah.
You'll wear it, a buttonhole, you button it from the back side, and that's all that you can see from the front. Also, I'll show you this, our new sensors, and this is for the sake of keeping the price on this down, and I'll tell you about that all you want. Okay, this is
Destroy 2.
the
Screen 2.
prototype of the new sensor.
Heal
There's
2.
one primary sensor that supports the other three. The nice thing about that is all of these three are very cheap. And this thing actually handles all the transmission of data and all of that for those guys. And is the only one that's powered. We are going to have a much lighter weight wire so that it's not a pain in the ass like this. But to give you some idea of cost, one of these, the boards that go in the wands, would retail for about $65 to $70 if you wanted to do it yourself. You would then have to, of course, buy a wand or build your own or whatever. The master sensor is also about $60, but these guys are only about 10 or 12. So we can probably get the average for the set of four down to a little over $20 a sensor. The nice thing is once you bought all the sensors, they're good for all weapons. When we have swords working, they'll pick that up. When we have guns working, they'll pick that up. It's all integrated technology, and we all have the same ability to design the damage and effects on the swords as we do with the wands. We can write quite a long description, in fact, because it doesn't look for that information on the information packet coming in. It looks to database that the app is going to carry in. It's updated regularly through a Wi-Fi connection with the command and control computer that's running the whole game. Everybody else can check into that, and they'll be able to track everybody in their health, and they'll be able to fix problems like if you took damage from an attack that you shouldn't have. They can add that back in for you from that point. We can also track everybody's location. We can talk to anybody in the game or everybody in the game.
How are you tracking?
Safely.
How are you tracking people's location?
GPS on their phone.
GPS.
I mean, it'll be like within 30 feet in many cases, but it's good enough to tell us where they are on the site. We
Is
can tell them
this
what
Bluetooth between the wand and the phone? Is that Bluetooth, or what do you?
Yeah, the wand has a Bluetooth module on the end of it that talks to the phone. But all the rest of the communication is RF and infrared. Sword, I actually like this a lot. If I hit you with a sword, you get an infrared flash, information flash. The biggest problem that we had, we didn't want to use that, was if I hit him and you were standing behind him, you get hit with that too.
That's a cleat.
Yeah, a cleave.
Well, I
Not a bug, it's a feature.
I told him to find him. So what? You know, mighty warrior. No, we actually solved that problem. There's a technology that they use to tell when to flush the toilet that tells you exactly how far somebody is from an infrared signal. We can design that response out to the end of the wire. So if you're further away than the blade is long, you won't take the effect. And that was our latest revelation that allowed the prototype to work. That's quite cheap. I'm not a technician either. I'm just somebody who's kind of generally a buller and makes other people do the work. And I shouldn't say that. I actually paid all of these people to do this. We've been working on this for 6 or 7 years. We have 2 patents already. And we're going to make this happen. So that's what I'm doing. Grateful.
Well, it's very good to make sense if people have questions, have more questions before I ask questions.
Are you looking at kind of marketing this as an individual purchase or more like a team game purchase?
He wants to know if you're gonna be marketing them individually or like for. The answer to that is both.
Okay.
We're looking to.
We're going to actually put out the magic system has its own game. We're going to call it Spell Slingers. And it'll come with basically this basic app, and it's designed for just playing around the house or whatever. We are going to be developing big, full game apps. First one that's in production is the game, the old medieval fantasy type game. We chose that as the first one just because it's the hardest one to do in terms of all the effects and swords and spells and everything. Called it Tales of the Wanderer. And we hired a head writer to be working on that now. We expect that to be ready to go out in about a year. And it's a full team or individuals. I mean, everybody in the chapter, they can identify by teams, and there will be benefits for members of your team from things that you can do. I mean, there's so much stuff we can do. You will gain skills by actually using the skill. We can track the number of times that you actually use that skill. And you'll get higher and higher skill levels. If you don't use it, we're going to let that skill degrade.
Well, why don't you tell them about how it's going to work with the games that they already have now? Like, how do they integrate it into their games?
Well, we can write an app for, I hesitate to say any game, but there's a lot of games that we can write apps for. In fact, what we're going to do is make this open source so that you have access to our library and routines, and we can get you support for developing your own app. Obviously, it's my advantage to get you more games going out there, so I'm very much in favor of doing that. I'm doing everything I can to keep the cost of all this down without this has been an expensive thing to develop. I don't need to, I need for this to not cost me more money, but I don't need to make a lot of money doing this. I'm mostly interested in making sure that this technology gets out, and I really think that this is going to be something that most likely is going to really want once they see it working. We have a lot of rocky road between now and actually having it working. You just heard me apologize for if this doesn't work. Yes.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Do we have any other questions?
I'm sorry. I didn't go on. My hands order.
Are y'all planning to do any integration into costuming with the receiving sensors? Or?
The sensors, you'll wear a sensor. The sensor will have be in a little plastic case with a button over the top. You put a buttonhole in your costume, and that sensor goes through that buttonhole. It'll look like a button or a stud or.
Okay, so it's like an add-on package for existing costumes.
It's a modification that you can add to a costume that you already have. You got to keep in mind that the outer layer of clothing that you have on has to be equipped with sensors. So to put on a clothing, it's got to be equipped too. You can do all of the sensors with just the master sensors, and they don't need to be connected to anything else. But, you know, the secondary sensors are there to bring down the cost of the sensor. Oh, I do get to show once. We're going to probably ship this in, this is what we call a basic one. This is just as basic a thing as we can make that'll hold the electronics with 3 buttons over the top, and you try not to cross-thread it if you screw it back together. And you can put any barrel on it that you want. This is a purpose-made Elder One that's got all the electronics in it. And I say purpose-made that we made it just as the Elder One. And
How did you make that? How did you make that?
3D print. And all the files for these are going to be available for free. If you want to print out your own and modify it or whatever you want. That's, if you wanted to, if you had one that you wanted to turn into an Elder One, you can use this, which is basically a cover for a basic one. And this is what I call my dwarf one, because it's made of all metal uses. Again, just a basic one. So, I think that.
Yes, I think it's done. Anything else? Cool.
I don't know, you look like you have a question.
No, I'm just appreciative of what you've done there. That's amazing.
Everyone's in awe.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes. Aww.
Okay. I'm going to.
What's glad that you're finished?
What?
Nothing. What is she?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Lovely person.
Hi, I'm Quinn, Milton, as I already said. I'm talking about stuff with, thank you very much. I'm going to talk about stuff with Event Horizon. But before I do, I just want to say that that's really cool. It seems like this is like technology that's taking the entire mechanics of the game and serving all of the mechanics that you have in a game and that type of technology in LARP. And I think it's really awesome and excellent that you want to put this out there and give people access to it. That's really cool. I'm going to be talking about bringing in technology to a game design that's like in a kind of different context that isn't entire mechanics or even necessarily about like the mechanics of the game. So Event Horizon is a LARP series that takes place in a sci-fi universe. Only one. It's a continuous universe, although it is not a campaign LARP. It is, we've been in, this is our second season, so second year. We're fairly new. And we do destination weekend LARPs. We've done 2 in California so far, and next year, unless something goes terribly wrong, we're going to be bi-coastal, so we'll have one that's closer here, which is very exciting. And our style of play is called integrated LARP, which basically means that it is a blend of freeform and mechanics-light cooperative play. We do have swords. Our sword system comes from the Wayfinder experience, which does summer camps in upstate New York. But even though we have swords, which is a light boffer kind of thing, that system is cooperative sword play. I'm kind of tired, so technologically speaking.
Just do the next button, just to bring it down.
That's my fan fiction.
Fanfic.
Yeah, fan fiction's great. Open Google Slides. There we go. Yay. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay, so the main thing that I'm going to talk about is our collaboration with the Set Lab. But before I get to that, I'm going to talk about a few other slightly less interesting things.
Do the full screen, maybe?
The presentation? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm very good at technology.
Escape.
Yeah.
And then present.
Anyway, yeah, it goes down. There we go. Okay, anyway, this is just a little short animation that we all. Our graphics.
You make the big screen it?
No, for this one, I'm just going to leave it like this. Anyway, so. Okay, so our first event in 2017, we had a big build project, which was called the Obelisk. The Obelisk is an interactive prop. You can see, I'll show this to you in a second. It is about yay tall. It's a big metal sculpture, and over the course of the weekend, it was this ancient relic. People didn't really know what it did, but there were researchers among the types of players who were investigating it. This old technology from a time when things were far more advanced than they are right now, but then civilization fell. So mysterious technology. And over the course of play, we had different puzzles and quests that people went on to find the code to open it. There was the giant obelisk, and there was a panel that you'll be able to see a little bit in this video. And when people figured out the code, they entered it in, and we had our great big ending scene. So this was a prop that had some technology in it that was used to seed plot in the game. It was plot relevant. The physicality of it was part of the way that we did plot. So this video, which I will full screen, is our game. and then jump to the very end, is a researcher speaking to everyone saying that we're going to open this ancient device. And you can see that it's lit from the inside. And there is a panel, or a podium right here that you put the code in. Oh, it doesn't look like anything's happening right now. Oh, color shift, big dramatic thing, lots of fun. And then the two doors slowly opened, and inside was the ancient AI played by Sadia, my co-owner, who was in a chair with their back facing and then slowly spun around. It was great. And then we had some conflict and combat around that. But this big build project, we had the flow idea for this thing. We have our West Coast builder, Angelo Taylor, who built it. He's a burner, he's a sculptor, he likes to make a lot of things. And Sadia Bees designed the outside patterns on it. Oh, I just don't want to go to the next slide. So this was a prop. This was a big prop that we had. We built collaboratively with our builder. We had one of our other staff members, Maya, did a lot of the coding help to make the mechanism happen there. That is a picture of the AI inside of it. What we want to do for these big events, among many things, is to be able to build something new that we can then reuse and have kind of we want something that'll blow people's minds a little bit, ideally. And it's also really fun to us as artists who are coming into Larp to make really cool things. And the way that I want those to be in game is not necessarily just as this cool fluff that you're putting on it, but rather something that people can interact with and will change the way that they are playing in the game and it'll have impact into what they're doing. So that's why I really love interactivity. These are some other pictures of the obelisk when it's open in the garage. That's the team hanging out, and there it was on site, nestled in the grass. And another thing that is less exciting and new that we do, but I still really like it, is we use Discord servers for our games. So we have people, they can get the Discord app on their phone. Discord is a server channel where people can do text communications. For a science fiction game, it supplements people's type of interactions to be able to text each other. It can be really fun to have this is how I'm going to interact with these other characters, but the way that I text them, it also means that people can be communicating across the space when they're not together. There are different channels that have a secret group or your not secret group, or collective groups. You decide hey, all of us with robot parts, we actually want to build a channel together so we can talk about issues that affect us. And we, as staff members, also have a staff channel and a channel for helping people get around the space. So Discord was great. We had definite limitations at the site that we were on, in that the site, Nature Bridge, is beautiful. It's on the ocean. It's a national park. I love them. They're a great site to work with. But there are some limitations with every site. And one of them is that there's no cell service. And there's limited Wi-Fi. So how do I, as a designer, bring in technology into a game that is going to have problems and is going to fail? And what we want to do is make the tech support things and not be dependent on the tech to do the things, because tech is, if we're not building these things for years and years and years and perfect it and what I can do, tech is going to go wrong. We have someone Skyping in to play a character, something always goes wrong, especially when you have limitations. So want not to be dependent on the technology to do our work for what kind of work that we're doing. The other thing that using toward and having computers and projectors in our games and video messaging or videos is that we have some remote players. And these remote players can interact on the server, and they also send video messages. They have a slightly different role in game. We like to make them bosses or people of influence who have things that a group needs to depend on. It's something that we're still working out, like how to do it the best that we can and what are the advantages of that. It's been very cool to have people who couldn't beat the game to still contribute to it. Now for the collaboration with the SET Lab. The Social and Emotional Technology Lab of UC Santa Cruz approached us to do a collaboration where they would build wearable technology for our LARP and then come and research it for their lab. Wearable technology is any type of technology that you wear on yourself. So smartwatches are wearable technology. And the type that they do specifically and they research is wearable technology that impacts the way we interact with each other. One of my favorite projects that they have done, which was not for my LARP, is they made a little flower brooch. And in it is a microphone. And that microphone recorded how long everyone in a conversation was talking. And if you talked above a certain percentage in that conversation, it gave you some feedback. So that's a social technology because it gives you information like, oh, like I've talked way more in this conversation than other people, and now I have a way of understanding that. And that's going to encourage a certain type of sharing in a conversation. And maybe mitigate some people who are just like talking over everyone else, if they decide to listen to it, which they may not at all. I mean, we know we're out there. So they do amazing work. They made a wearable device for a Battlestar Galactica run last year at a convention I do not remember. And they were really amazing to work with. As you can see here, they're in their lab coats on the left. They played in-game researchers who were researching the augments. Augments in fiction are any people who have like cybernetics. And here we have two augment players wearing the device on their shoulders. They wore GoPro cameras. I'm really excited to see the footage. And they were able to document and engage with the game. And I just think it's really cool, as someone doing a sci-fi LARP and someone who cares about science fiction, to be able to bring in some real science to the game. So this is a prototype device with the lovely Maya Ziv, who is one of my staff members. As you can see, it's worn over the shoulder. There are lights that go up all around it. On the front, on one of the sides, there are some buttons. And on the other side, there is a squeeze thing. On the back, there is a panel that is touch sensitive. It's a touch sensitive fabric material. And there is 4 buttons for inputting a code into the device. So, what this device did, it was 4 augments. The number one of the first things that they wanted to design for is they wanted to design a overload mechanic into a wearable device. An overload would be this state that something was going wrong with your technology, and that meant that when you went into overload, it's kind of like a stun where you can't move for a while. You might play it up to act disoriented, confused, in pain, however you choose to act it out. Because our system is all about reacting, and the players kind of like choose how they react to things. So we wanted to design for overload because augments struggling with maintaining and having these augmentations is a part of the fiction and a part of the reality. This is basically a working class and an indentured servitude class in a lot of cases. So for overload, a beeper went off at random intervals throughout the day. And then the device would begin to flash. I think there's a video of it. This right here. And the overload would go away on its We didn't want to design something that was going to be forcing players to leave the game. But we did want people to be able to have this like inconvenience thing. And yeah, colors change when you tap a thing. I'll talk a little bit about what different colors like signify in the game context. Oh, it didn't. I didn't. Okay. Oh, I really just like that. Oh yeah, the red means it's gone up in overload. So Maya knows to react in a certain way. She's describing the way that players will react to the lab. They don't know the entire system. And this is someone patting the back, and the rainbow lights go off, and this is going to soothe the overload. If you stop doing that, after a while, it comes back on, so it's kind of like a continuous thing. The amount that you touch is additive. So after a certain point, it totally cancels out the overload. And what we loved about this is it encouraged a type of physical intimacy within players that they wouldn't necessarily have done otherwise. One of the main ideas behind this is not just that we wanted augments to watch out for each other's backs, very literally, but we also wanted to give our players an experience of, I'm feeling kind of vulnerable in this situation. So this part of our body is, for most people, this is a vulnerable part of the body because this is the spine, this is the neck, this is by the head. So when people are touching you here, there is already kind of an emotional sense of what's going on. And this has the potential to make people feel comforted in a situation of distress for their character. And it'll also, I'm not sure because I haven't looked at all the research or done the research, so I'm not going to, but I could imagine playing in this that people would have a slightly different relationship to physical comfort with other people since this has been introduced in this context. And that's something that the lab is going to be looking into and interested in studying. The other thing that plays into the vulnerability of this wearable design is that the code back here, there are a few things you can do with it. And this is also on your back. And you have to like let someone touch your coding in order for them to do something. One of the things is that it can leave an overload instantly. It can also, you could get an upgrade that you would buy in World that meant that for the rest of the day there would be no more overload. Got that upgrade. And there's a visual rainbow signifier to show that, oh, this augment, they have got the new thing. Their stuff isn't falling apart. The other thing that someone can do on your code is put you into overload. So anytime someone is accessing your back port, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position because they could screw you over. So you're getting the idea that it's a wearable thing, but it's not just about the mechanics, there's also kind of a social tension going on here. The other things that it does is we had a stun mechanic that they could do, which was a touch mechanic. They had to be touching the person, and it would discharge some electricity into that person. And how we might normally do this in a Larp without this kind of technology is I would do like can I demonstrate my YouTube? Thank you. I would do like a stun to communicate the type of thing. Pretty common standard. Instead, we had the augment could push a button, and then yellow and blue lights would do that cueing of the mechanic for someone else to react to. So that's kind of a fun way that allowed them to do this mechanic. The last thing that it did, or going back to the overload rather, they could also choose to put themselves in overload. If they wanted to build that scene in like a dramatic moment where they wanted to go in overload for whatever reason, they can do that to themselves anytime. And we have players who like to play for the story and the emotion and the dramatic, and we encourage people to play two stories. So we always talk about how it can be really fun to be, in that defeated moment, or in that dramatic moment, or that hurt moment. And then lastly, they had a color alliance. So there were 3 colors that showed what kind of network and alliance you were part of. You could choose to have a neutral, where you did not display your alliance, or you could choose to show your alliance. you might do it for solidarity or communication. Someone could also get you under a knife or sword point and force you to show where your allegiance is. So that was another thing that we designed there. This slide. Anyway, so this is photos right here and here of the final design, I believe. And this is someone in-game going into overload, and someone is putting in the code there, hopefully to relieve them. But I don't actually know how that went down. The process with working with the lab was that, which we started in January, and then the Larp was April 20th, so it was actually a very short and quick collaboration. They talked to us about what they do. We told them about our design, the most important design principles we have, and what we want out of player experience. And we started brainstorming about what we wanted to do. We talked to them about the big themes of the Larp. And from that point on, they developed some prototypes. We had Maya come in to their lab to test out certain things. We did Skype calls and things like that. It was just like a really great kind of experience. And then lastly, our build for this April game was again an interactive set piece. We had 3 nodes, so smaller than Oculus, they're about this big. And they were built to be both analog and digital puzzles that players would encounter during the big climax of the weekend. Unfortunately, this is what happens a lot of the time in the creative process. A lot of the analog puzzles ended up not working, which is disappointing. At the same time, the way that we put these into our game was such that even if certain things don't work, the game itself can run. So we had the video game portion here, and we lost some of the analog puzzles along the way, which is just a reality if you're bringing in any type of like technology or like big design stuff, is that actually anything in your game, things will fall apart and not happen how you want to, and I think it's just really important when you're bringing in stuff, especially shiny technology, is to be prepared and to acknowledge that these things kind of happen. But anyway, there are still some puzzle parts to this. They had to take off a panel, so they had to like physically interact with the thing. And then there was a video game that was a kind of puzzle solving thing. Also, to give context of what these are, it was basically a capture the node kind of situation where they had to get all 3 in order to take control of the internet for the planet, which was a big deal, because it would probably be used for some bad things by a corporation. Everyone was feeling dramatic about it. So they had to get all 3, and when one was captured by one group, it showed on the others where they were. And so you play the video game, you have to wait a certain amount of time. We have these NPCs who are like attacking, fighting, trying to claim them, and then it doesn't lock in until all 3 are captured. So what we're designing for is you have to defend one, like you have to try to get the other 3. And I think enter the node right there, and you can see them taking apart the panel here. What we loved about this was that you have an assumption when you come to the props, like, oh yeah, I'm not touching this set piece, right? And then we had instructions hidden under the table, and one of them was use a screw, take off a panel. So suddenly something that is non-interactive in the game, like, I'm not supposed to take this off the table for this game that we're in right now, becomes interactive, and you subvert expectations. And when you're designing stuff like this, you really have to keep in mind what people think they're supposed to do with it, and what you think is obvious that might not be obvious. Anyway, so just to wrap up, we care about science fiction, which is a lot of it is about the way that society and humans and humanity will be, could be with technology and with different things for the future. So one thing that we've always wanted to do, and hopefully continue to do, is to collaborate with different people, especially people outside of Larp space, to find ways to bring in actual sci-fi stuff that is happening right now. And for the fun of it, to see kind of what happens when we're making a social situation where now we have this kind of thing. I would love to be, a silly little dream of mine, but I would love to be sponsored by like color changing hair dye or like heat sensitivity, like clothing that like shows different displays or something like that, which is just really kind of a fashion technology that is going to be becoming more popular, but it's still really cool. It would also be really great to be able to bring in artists and people on the edge, cutting edge of design for different things that maybe will be in our future or could be in the future that we imagine. So that's what I want to do.
First of all, I'm really impressed that you launched the University Lab. That's an amazing resource that everyone should know about. There's tons of us all over the country making cool shit like this. I'd love to put it into real names. How did you find them?
They actually found us. They were recommended to us from Elsa, get her last name down, who was someone who worked on the Battle Circle Actual before. So they were recommended to us. They got that.
Catherine, is this group, is that right?
Sorry?
Who's the faculty member?
The faculty member is...
Looks like Catherine is Sister's one.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So, and she, and her work seems like really incredible.
Yeah, embodied emotion stuff is really shit, yeah.
Yeah.
You should look at UC Irvine. Josh Tannenbaum has made a Larp that's technologically enabled. That's pretty interesting. It's a small, 5 people or something.
Can you give me that name one more time?
Josh Tannenbaum, UC Irvine. I forget the name of the lab.
Salta. I went to UCI.
Oh, did you study with Josh?
No, but I know of him.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I'm curious, technology aside, the overload mechanic. So this obviously feels like a big core part of the game. Can you talk a little bit more about like what you're trying to achieve with that and what you're trying to explore?
Sure. We are a mechanics light Larp. We sometimes shift around what mechanics we are using. So we didn't have an overload kind of thing in our first run. Or we also didn't have stuff. We basically have swords with improv-based no numbers system. We have a improvisational way to do healing, and also we have some psychic powers that are also like improv, not super mechanical or combative or competitive. So with Overload, what we wanted is for this class of players, for these players, and for this class of character in the role to feel like they were at a social and financial and physical disadvantage. One of the big things about this LARP was what it is like or would be like to live in a capitalist system where mega corporations had as much power as most powerful governments. And it was, in a lot of ways, a very anti-capitalist game. And these were the working class of people whose labor was being, that the entire galaxy was dependent on their labor, and that they were stuck in these kind of situations. But also, what happens when someone needs to do the job? Or a big part of this game was, well, let's not use augment labor because these are humans and care about human rights. Let's use these androids that are artificially intelligent and maybe sapient and use them instead for these same shitty mining jobs. So that was one of the conflicts. The point of the mechanic was really to be able to create scenes and to have the tension of living with a type of the type of stress that was like about your body and the way that your body was perceived by others potentially as well, because
Any questions? Let me sure our next there has time.
I have no presentation, so I'm going to be talking to you about 3 projects. So I will make it into it.
Any last burning questions on that though?
So I don't have a presentation because I was way too busy with other things leading up to this. I want to talk about 3 projects that I worked on doing this. When I work with a project for Larp, what I think about is I start with the experience that I want to give my players or give my fellow players, depending on how we're involved. And I wanted to talk about three things I do. One of them I'll just touch briefly on is also a wearables project. It was actually a costume piece for a PC that I played. It was an Android. And it was a set of lights that flickered across my body with an accelerometer on my arm. This was a buffered in. So when I swung my weapon or squeezed this hand, they would flare up a bit. And playing with that and using, and then let me use that physical technology, that extra sense, that extra way of reacting to role play with other people. Getting someone's going to be upset at them and also flaring brighter and appling provide an extra level of content, if you will. That was for context, that was an Arduino. And basically everything I do is Arduino-based. Then, the second project is a game that I wrote for WinterCon J in 2010 called Blackout, which was a crashed spaceship game. It was not only a Secrets and Powers style game in which we wrote a character web, we had characters and so forth, but the entire gameplay was Arduino-based ship props and puzzles and things to find and assembling a maze. And sort of, I guess, what you would consider escape room now, but that didn't really exist at the time. Except it was all in the pitch black. So which let me make props that maybe they weren't the most attractive, but they worked and they did the things, and there were lights and there were buttons and there was a little blinking light, and okay, there's a light, there seems to be buttons here, and what happens if oh no, I get a different pattern. And that came from, and a couple of ideas that started, obviously, the high-level pitch of this sort of a computer adventure game / LARP. And I think my initial idea of it was the last moment of the game, which is 2 people on opposite sides of a pitch black room turning keys at exactly the same time in order to get the ship into the final, to be able to take off. And so when I design these things, I design for physicality and design. I think about what experience I'm trying to give the player, and I think about what and how to get there, and how to use technology to get them to that spot. So it was a series of interactions, like waiting for a light to change before you could open a door and see what's on, like, are you on a planet? Is that, are you, what's on the other side of this? Or turning keys, or flipping switches, or, physically moving, trying to solve a maze in the dark that is of raised things that will actually light up things as you go. And so designing for physicality. For that game was a game that could not work without the technology, because that was what the game was. Which was great when 20 minutes into the game, controller board for one of the things burned out, and I had to replace it in the pitch black. Because I didn't want to turn on the lights and have the PC actually see the mazes of all the where things were hidden around the room.
You like it?
Yeah, it was fun. It worked, and I think I had a great time. Now also, the other thing that I used in that, which wasn't actually tied in, was sound. And I used that in a number of ways. So the spaceship, the game was divided into 2 conference rooms that were connected. In the spaceship room, which is where everyone started, there was a rumbling, mechanical, slightly wrong, low hum constantly playing. But of course in the dark, so it's just like, it just puts everyone slightly on edge. And then in the other space was the jungle space. This was at the convention hotel that we had used it asked the hotel to put all of the fake ficuses in the hotel in the background. So we had a jungle. And I had built a soundtrack of trickling water and wind whistling and whatever. And I tweaked a little bit so it didn't quite sound right. And then mixed some alien drumming in so that over the course of about an hour, it went from not there to present. And I did get to have the moment when a player turned to another player and to say, "Huh? Drums? When did that start?" So I realized they had been, and that's just the thing you can do with technology, right? And I had done that by mixing this track in Audacity, a few weeks before the game. And I just set it to go and went and provided this interesting moment. So that's, there's probably more things I can say about that. But the third project I want to talk about was is for a campaign game that I actually play right now called Threshold, which is a cyberpunk game. It's a buffer game. It actually runs at the same hotel that Intercon used to run at. And it is a cyberpunk game where the PCs are in possession of two, we'll call them stargates, teleportation devices. And this is an interesting use of technology because the GMs and players decided to put most of the resources for the game into these two enormous central props, which are 8-foot octagonal gateways that are designed to fit into a dividing wall of your conference rooms and have lights on the inside and have a controller box and have a big timer on the top of it. And I don't know, if you've played a traditional, what I consider, I guess, a traditional tavern-style opera game, where you hang out in the space and someone comes, I need 90 people to go do a thing. You have that sort of gameplay that kicks off, but having these gates has changed the rest of how the game plays, so that in order to make this work, we as players, 2 days before the event, get a list of all of the adventures we're going on for the day with an in-character dossier that has been assembled by the intelligence team of what's there. Right? And so you know where you're going to be. The adventures kick off by having an NPC come in, press a button that's on the back of the thing, and klaxon goes off, a 5-minute timer starts on this 1.5-inch countdown timer on the top of the thing, counting down. When that goes off, the gate spins up, lights, animates, and it opens, and a 30-minute timer starts counting down. And that's how long you have to accomplish whatever it is you need to do in there, negotiate with the terrorists or rescue someone or whatever. And when that slams shut, you're stuck on the other side somewhere else in the world, and you have to figure it out. And obviously, if this technology breaks, they can still run the game. The game doesn't spin to a halt because the lights aren't on. It just enhances it. But the gameplay, the outcome of the effects on the rest of the game, how the game feels, and the intensity of the game, because there's always a countdown timer. Whenever you're off doing something, you always know how many minutes you have left, and once it goes down to minutes and seconds. And like 2 days before the first game, I realized I should change this, and once it goes down to under a minute, it switches to seconds and milliseconds. And it's just spinning as fast as you can see it. And the intensity of that last minute, either before the gate opens, when you're all like tense and ready to go on a thing, or trying to finish the negotiation before the door slams shut, is really a remarkable feeling that we get out of having this technology in the game. And sort of just pervaded the rest of how the game plays. Because in the rest, a lot of the rest of the game is more standard. I guess what I consider more standard. Props represented by pieces of paper with writing on them, but because we've put the effort into having these two enormous central props that the game is named after, it feels very high tech. It gets a lot of value out of these centralized pieces for the rest of the game.
Yeah, if I can just jump on that real quick. I've done set design too in a different context, and there is a lot that you can get out of things that are really accessible, like timers. Like that just puts the stress on and makes it feel a lot more visceral when you have that timer there. And then also with sound design for scenes is a super great way to build atmosphere and to put in information into the game, and it's something that like anyone can figure out how to do. You just need like a portable speaker or something to make that happen, and you can really build a lot just with that. And similarly, lights, anyone who's done any scene design knows that lighting is your friend, and you want to have, and that might be the most that you can do to a space is change the color, just put on a filter or whatever it is, just like dim things so it feels more like an actual dingy cyberpunk bar as opposed to a space you just ran into with some duct tape and some plastic cups. So there's a lot of technology that we already use that is that can really help a design in some ways. Like I love that like gate and just like the timer thing. And I think that even if you didn't have like this cool and immersive prompt for a game that's not prioritizing 360-degree immersion, using a timer like that is a very simple, basic way to do stuff. And if you have phones in there and you decide, I want critical information to come in, just coming in through on this server, like that can add a lot to the game.
I was going to say with lighting, I think my most recent big purchase was a set of 4 DMX controlled DJ lights, RGB DJ lights. They're just off the shelf lights that are directly used by a game on Wednesday that they went to, and a set of wireless DMX cables, which lets me set up any color I want and then queue up changes at any time. Open source software running on my laptop. So this helps set a scene to help change things, etc. That's pretty simple stuff. But even if you don't have a program, and I have a whole separate grant that anyone can learn how to do this. Arduino is specifically designed for artists who are slightly technical to dive into this stuff. I am very technical, but the stuff that I use is actually designed for artists to be able to make cool interactive props. I have actually a set of resources if you're interested in talking about.
I was just going to say that even like for myself, I'm not very technologically inclined, but I do use a lot of T lights and small lights are available in like remote control changeable colors now. So if you're standing within 3 feet of a prop while the scene's going on, you can just be like, if it's right now. So that's been really good now that the prices have gone down on those things. But having equipment like that is absolutely amazing.
And when I said the set of 4 lights, I think the lights that I bought were $100 each. The gaming cables are probably $20 per light. So it's about a $500 investment for a set of 4 that could give enough. We should probably, we'll let me put a light in the 4 corners of this room without cables running to them. And make this room dimly exactly the color I want it to be.
Yeah, and also, like, with new technology, whatever it is, like, we know that usually the price of these things go down and accessibility comes up, and especially if we can, like, share resources or have things like our cars, and, like, 3D printing, obviously, is a big one for this. It's going to be, there's, like, I don't know, in 10 years, it's going to, like, whatever tech is in Larp is going to be totally different, and hopefully there'll be just a lot more options. People can do really cool things for whatever type of art they want and however they want technology to be.
Hi. So one thing I've been thinking about is, I don't know, this term kind of comes to me from board game design, but I think it applies also to the Larp, which is conveyance, which is basically when the action of performing the mechanics it basically evokes the feeling of doing the thing in real life. And you know, it's been used successfully in a lot of board games, like Space Alert by Blancheville. So my question is, like, what are some ways in which you would like to see technology used as a conveyance device in LARPs in the future that maybe haven't kind of come about yet?
I know for me, myself, one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite things in LARP and LARP design is like the material and physical aspects of how we interact interact with it and what happens from that. So I really like when you actually can just do the thing and you really feel that. But for something more fantastical or something that a certain person can kind of do, I think there are a lot of ways that whatever prop you're interacting with, whether it has technology or not, can have a tangible. I think the tangible is good. I think if your character is struggling for something, something valuable, and you actually have to like touch it, I think that's a different experience than something valuable that's intangible. I think when you, and this is a design principle too, that the way that you tactily and physically interact with things changes the way that you think about it. So I'm often more interested in games where you really physically interact with stuff. And as far as technology goes for that, I think that, well, actually, in your case, so like these game systems are very crunchy, and what this kind of technology allows is to take away the burden of the player having to do that crunch, and they can just be way more immersed in the combat because you've taken that out of it.
You got to take away the mental processes that you used to have to devote figuring out the status and just concentrating on the character.
So I haven't done this type of Larp before, but like there is, like once you have to think about the system, that is player mental load. And what I saw in that video and playing with that, like you just feel like you're in a video game, you're actually doing the thing, like they know how to react a lot faster. So that's already definitely what you're talking about.
Yeah.